Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton.
Nice.
We are here to discuss week 2 versus the Bears, a game that, for me personally, it just feels like so much is riding on after our performance in week 1 and losing to another division opponent. So, and also you add in the Ben Johnson factor, right? So, Jacob, how are you feeling about, first of all, why did I call you Gleyber Torres?
Yeah, so at work today, somebody stopped. He's like, you look like a Tigers player. And as soon as he said it, I narrowed in my head the two players. I was like, is he a current Tigers player or somebody that used to play for the Tigers? Because I used to all the time get Nick Castellanos. People used to say that I look like Nick Castellanos. And then, I was like, a current or former? And he's like, no, he's on the team right now. And I knew that he was talking about Torres. And I was like, oh, are you talking about Torres? He's like, yes, that's it. He was like, you look just like him. I don't know about just like him, but I can see a little bit of similarities. Yeah, I am not Venezuelan, but
I've told Sarah that I see similarities when especially when they do like the lineup thing. It's just the face-on perspective.
Right.
I mean, you're not, it's not like I get you confused or anything, but I could definitely see some similarities. I was at the day that you got confused for Ryan Day, which was hilarious for many reasons. And then you said something in text about Jimmy Kimmel. Did someone say something? You look like Jimmy Kimmel?
Somebody, I think this was at like when we do those healthy living events where we're like out like in the store.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that I look like Jimmy Kimmel. I was like, thank you for that.
I don't
appreciate that one as much as Torres.
Yeah, I don't know how you get confused with Jimmy Kimmel because you don't look like him and you're not funny. So those are 2 strikes against you.
Nice.
Now, the Ryan Day one, you don't look like Ryan Day, but you both suck. So that one I get.
All right. Have you been thinking of these all day? I know you. You didn't have these on the fly. These are written down somewhere.
I actually, just like probably half an hour ago, I was taking Cooper on a walk. So when I'm on the walk, I don't have my phone. I don't have kids. And it's just me and my thoughts. And a lot of times it's like, how can I make fun of Jacob? And so those are the 2 that I came up with.
Boom, roasted, right?
Yeah, exactly. I felt so good. I was trying to work it in naturally, and now you blew my cover like I didn't come up that on the fly, but that's all right.
That's okay. It was still funny. We'll give you that moment.
Yeah. Well, it's good to talk football with you. I don't know if I feel pressure about this game or what I feel about it. I feel some anxiety towards it, and it shouldn't be. It's a week 2 game, but it's just because it's another division game right after the first one, and we obviously didn't play well on Sunday. So, do you feel the same way, or you just think this is another game, or
exactly? I think you hit it. I mean, had we had like a really hard, close fought out, and then we just couldn't get it done in Green Bay, it would be maybe a little bit different. Obviously, you don't want to go 0-2 in division right away, but yeah, just the fashion that it happened, the way that we looked, the way we weren't able to get the ball moving the way we wanted to. Yeah, all of that was disappointing last week, and now there's more of a sense of urgency, especially because it's a division opponent. And then on top of that, you had the whole Ben Johnson thing where it's like, man, we really want to, take it to them. So, I mean, the urgency is there. I can't really say that I'm worried or concerned. I mean, I did pick them losing, I think, 6 games this season. You don't want 2 or 3 of those to be within the first 5 weeks, though. It's a long season.
No.
And you don't want, what happened to the Bengals last year where, they start off rough, they pick it up, and then they're kind of doing better later on. It was too little too late. That's terrible. And we don't need that, especially in this division where things are going to be tough.
One thing I do like, though, even if we were to lose this game, I think this team likes being the underdog. I think there's just something about being in Detroit, and we're used to that feeling of being the underdog. But I'm kind of wondering about you personally, Jacob. Do you, for you, now I'm not talking about the Lions, I'm talking about for you, do you like being the underdog or not having expectations, or do you like the person that, at work where everyone counts on you, mean, I know that's your role at work, but just in life, like in sports, if you're playing on a team, do you like being the guy that can fly under the radar and like has have all those expectations, or do you want to be the guy?
I prefer to be the guy. I prefer to be the one that's like, here, this is the gold standard for what you're trying to be or what you're trying to do. Here we are, Detroit Lions are playing well. If you want to come knock us off our pedestal, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to earn it. That's where I like being. That's, in life, that's how I like, for the team to be. I do understand that, when we do have that underdog mentality, it's just a different fire, I guess, that's lit underneath you to try to prove yourself when you're not already up there. There's just a different risk, I guess, that comes along with that too. But from a media perspective, I'm sure it's much easier for them just to be the underdog, because then when things don't go perfectly, you don't have to answer those questions each time because the expectation is not fully there. But with that being said, if we're going to be, if this is a dynasty and we're going to be a great team for years coming, that's got to be the gold standard. The standard's the standard and all that. I mean, you have to be comfortable being at the top and having every team give you their best every week.
Yeah. Dave Campbell in his press conference today kind of said that, like, that's what made me think of that was like, we've, grown that standard to now have those high expectations. So when we don't look good in week one, there is that outcry. And I think, like, in my head, I was like, that's a nice way of putting it. Is like, okay, because like I've wondered like why it just seems like so many people are down on the Lions, and I know that that's reactionary. And if we go out and blow out the Bears, then it's going to flip to the other side, and we're like, we're going 16-1.
Right.
It's going to go like that, and I get it, and I'm not, that doesn't need to sway my opinion of this team. But I just wonder, like, in life where you like to be. I mean, it is nice to sometimes not have expectations on you and just be like a pleasant surprise for people. Like, I just think of, for me, like I was a, floating pharmacist, so I bounced like store to store. So like you knew my work ethic because I work with you all the time. And so like you knew when I come in that I was going to give a certain level of effort at work and be able to keep things caught up. Or when I go to another store, people wouldn't have, I mean, like they didn't know. And the expectations of a floating pharmacist sometimes can be very low.
Right. The bar is not very high.
So then I would come in and they'd be like, I would hear at the end of a shift, you guys, you can come back anytime. And so like in my head, I'm like, well, was I good or was I just like exceeded their expectations because they were so low? And either way, I'm happy. I'm like, whatever. I know my worth. I know how, what kind of person I am, what kind of worker I am. But it is nice to sometimes go in low expectations and just blow them out of the water.
So here to that, and we can incorporate this in football. When you go in, so it's your first time, you're like, okay, I'm coming into this store for the first time. Maybe you've heard it's a busy store or something like that. Do you think in your head, like, okay, they don't know, they don't even know what I'm trained to do? No, they're like, they don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm about. Do you come in there with more of a fire? Like, I'm going to come in there and give it 110% because I want them to remember. And you know how you just said, say those positive things. You want at the end of the day for them to say, oh, I want you to come back. It's a different kind of fire, but do you think you work harder there, or do you work harder somewhere where you're like there every day? Like, okay, they expect me to do this number.
I have a certain level of expectation for myself, just like I think the Lions players do. Like, I'm going to go in and give, like, it doesn't matter, like, whatever. I feel like, for the most part, I give 100% every day, and more than that some days, and then I could tell you that there are certain people I work with, that I know, like, even like like I just said, I feel like I give 100%, but there's some days that like, I'm like, I really got to give it today because I know person A is going to, they're going to outshine me, and I don't have to be the best, but I give my full work. But there's a certain level of respect I have. Like, this person's given 110%. I have to give, 115%. I mean, I just have to do that. So yeah, I think that's that. I don't think I've ever went to a store and be like, I'm going to blow their mind. Like, I go in and just like, I'm going to do my work. And I've learned in life that a lot of times, like, just doing your job is enough. Like, that, I'm not like sitting on my phone. I'm not like having side chats. I'm not, avoiding certain things. So yeah, I think
this was all clearly before you took this remote position and got addicted to Twitter.
now I could do whatever the heck I want, right? No. I still give them out. All right, let's move on to the Lions here. Transactions this week. Anthony Pittman was released from the practice squad, so he played on Sunday, but he was just an elevation for the game, so he was never on the active 53. He was just elevated. We cut him, but we signed two players. Devin Cochran and Monty, who's an offensive lineman, a very large offensive lineman, and Monty Rice, and they both went to the practice squad. The offensive lineman's tackle, because Jamarco Jones apparently tore his Achilles. I don't know if you saw that or not, Jacob, but he's definitely out for the whole year. My expectations is if Skipper's healthy, he's going to get either put on the active 53 or elevated for a little bit. I don't think this Devin Cochran is going to make it. I think he's more, way down depth, like probably below Manu depth. Monty Rice, I don't know. He's a former 3rd-round pick. I don't know too much about him, but he's linebacker depth on the practice squad. I'm sure he's got special team skills because you're not that far on the depth chart without having some sort of special team skills.
What do you think of the move to cut Pittman, though, to move on from Pittman and replace him with Monty Rice? I mean, I don't know what the reason.
I got to say that they didn't like something. I mean, he has a history with this team. And so the fact that they moved on from him and picked, it'd be one thing if we replace him with the offensive lineman or something, right? You'd be like, well, we just need to have that position.
Right.
But
that
to pick up another
sense.
linebacker, that means that your play wasn't up to standard. Now, the special teams play has not been good. And I'm not blaming that all on Anthony Pittman, but my assumption is they're saying we're going to get people in here that can play special teams because we can't keep having these mistakes.
Yeah, those were the only snaps he had were on special teams. So clearly there's something going on, that they didn't like, and they've got, made the decision to move on. Exactly. Did you see Aaron Glenn cut the guy that fumbled?
Yes, yeah. I saw that. Yeah,
seen that coming.
Gonna be the
but the standard, right? You can't let stuff like that happen.
Nope. All right, Jacob, why don't you move on to some, interesting, the connections that we have with the Bears between players and record and all that. I'll let you start to talk about that.
Yes, just some, I guess, noteworthy things between the Lions and the Bears. So the Bears lead the all-time series 105-80. We have tied 5 times in the series. Bears' record last year was 5-12. They finished 4th in the NFC North. Obviously moved on from, their coaching staff, made a lot of changes at the higher level. So for the Lions, we have 2 former Bears on our team, David Montgomery and then Al-Quadin Muhammad. Both spent time in Chicago. So maybe, playing a little harder this week or got more to prove if you're those 2. But then on the flip side, on the Bears, you have some former Lions, Scott Daly, who was our long snapper. If you guys remember, before Hogan Hatton came along, beat him out. And then running back DeAndre Swift, I know everybody remembers him. And then offensive guard Jonah Jackson, who signed that big contract with the Rams before we got Zeitler last year. Then he winds up in Chicago. Last week, Jonah was rated as the worst guard in the NFL for week 1, according to Pro Football Focus. So quite the free fall for Jonah so far. Obviously, it's only week 1. It's early. Still not a good look to be rated dead last. And then we also have a family connection here. So Panay's brother, Noah Sewell, has been playing with the Bears. He's actually getting more playing time. I don't know for sure. Did he start last week or no?
I don't know if he started, but I think he played more snaps last week than he played in the first 2 seasons combined, is what I think the stat was.
Okay.
So, he's played, he played a lot more.
Yeah, so getting some meaningful time. Be interesting if they send him on a blitz and Panay's got to block his brother like that, right? I mean,
oh man, I would love to hit my brother.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just hey, you got brothers, you know how it is. You just like to pop them every once in a while.
Right.
Let them know who's boss.
For sure. No, it does say that Noah started last week, so can maybe anticipate him starting again. Okay, yeah. So Bears lead the all-time series, but recently the Lions are 5-3 in the Dan Campbell era. Last season, the first game against Chicago, we beat them on Thanksgiving in Detroit. That was the game where Eberflus did not call a timeout. As Darius had a sack, there was just mass confusion. They let, whatever it was, 40 seconds or something like that go off of the clock, and then Caleb Williams throws up a Hail Mary that falls incomplete. So that ended up being the final straw for Eberflus, did it not? Or was it next week that he got?
No, I think that was it,
Yeah,
right? I'm pretty sure.
That's what I was thinking. That was the last one. So then later in the season, we played them in Chicago with the interim head coach. We beat them 34-17 in that game. And there was a lot of noteworthy things in that game in Chicago. That was the stumble bum play. That was J-Mo's 82-yard touchdown. It was also where J-Mo hurdled that guy. I believe that was an outdoor game, right? Or was that Thanksgiving?
No, I think that was the indoor game. Yeah,
that was Thanksgiving.
Indoor. That was a Thanksgiving. Yeah, because Preston's got a picture of it. It's at Ford Field.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, still
a lot of history
notable that
against
it's
the
against the Bears.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Who's the corner that J-Mo and they flip the ball back and forth? Who do you know? Who is that? It's not Jalen Johnson, is it?
I don't remember if that was him.
I don't think it is. I can't remember.
Was it Owens?
But, yeah, I can't remember. I should have looked that up before the show.
Right.
But yeah. So there's that. I was just wondering if he's still on the team or not. Yeah, those are all the stumble bum. That's funny. I forgot that was in the Bears game. So yeah, that's great. Just a lot of connections there. We'll see. We'll see if Ben Johnson does one of those trick plays against us. I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve, right?
They're gonna try something, right? He's got to try to get us back. But I'm wondering, like, is this going to be like a fun game for them? Like, I'm sure him and Dan Campbell, have a conversation before, they're friends. They talk about how it's going and everything like that. But then is the game going to be friendly, or is it going to turn ugly? Like, I want to beat that team. Because it is the Lions versus Bears. It is, Ben Johnson, game. Antoine Randall L., all the connections that we have between them, but we're out for blood.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think that I don't know. Remember when Jim Schwartz came back and they the Bills put him on his shoulder after he beat the Lions? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to see Ben Johnson on anybody's shoulder. So, but I do want to see some players try to lift up Dan Campbell though.
Yeah, right. I don't know about that.
Yeah. All right, man. Obviously quite a few changes for the Bears, starting with their head coach, Ben Johnson, who we're all familiar with. But they also have 3 new interior linemen, just like the Lions. So they got new center, Drew Dahlman, and then they traded for Joe Thuney, is how you say it. Is it Thuney or
I think it's Thuney. I think it's Thuney.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Thuney. And then obviously you already mentioned Jonah Jackson. They got defensive end, Dale. You could say
I was waiting. I was like, does he know how to say this? Is he going to say this? Odiingbo? I don't know if that's how you say it. That's what it looks like.
That looks good. Grady Jarrett, I could say that. So defensive tackle, they got that. Draft picks, we're not going to go through everybody, but they did have 3 second-round picks, and then obviously their first one, Colston Loveland, who we're very familiar with. Kind of surprised that they went, when they have Cole Kmet and they went with Colston Loveland in the first round, I was surprised that they did that. But Ben Johnson likes to have weapons. Colston Loveland is like a matchup nightmare just because he's almost like a wide receiver in that tight end position. Very good. So we'll hopefully keep him under wraps. They also got Luther Burden, wide receiver, tackle Ozzie Trapillo, and Shamar Turner, all in the second round. So that's who they had there. They lost, as far as their losses, they lost their interior lineman, Tevin Jacobs, Coleman Shelton, and Matt Pryor, who was guard 2 centers. And then the big one was Keenan Allen. I mean, he had 700 yards for them. They got to replace in there. I mean, I know they hoping that Roma Dunze and then Luther Burden could take some of that, and maybe even Colston Loveland. But I'm glad that Keenan Allen's not out there, because he's just one of those guys that, in zone coverage, he knows right where to sit down in, and he just knows. I'm glad that he's not on their team anymore. And I'm sure Justin Herbert is very happy that he's back at the Chargers. He had a very good game in the first week, and I'm really mad that I forgot and didn't draft him in fantasy.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then obviously they have some other coaches that they, wide receiver coach. I'm blanking right now. Randall L is over there. And then Dennis Allen is their defensive coordinator. Did they take any other Lions coaches? Who else did they?
I don't feel like they did. I know the Jets took some too. We split some.
Yeah.
The biggest one for me was Randall L. I don't know that
Yeah. All right. Why don't you go over, and we've titled this Main Threat, MANE Threat. It's, great play on words, Jacob. So tell us who their main threats are over there.
All right. Main threat. Real quick. These ratings, are these the Pro Football Focus ratings for last year? Is that how you did that on here?
Yes, those are last year's ratings.
All right. Because I don't have their rating, I've got their rank. So for the main threat, we've got on offense quarterback Caleb Williams. Last year was rated 67.6. This year, after week 1, he's the 13th ranked quarterback in the league. And then you've got the wide receivers DJ Moore, who last year was a 73.5, and Roma Dunze, who last year was 64.7. It's only been 1 week. Right now, Pro Football Focus has Rome at number 38 for receivers. DJ Moore's number 60. Neither of them had a very good game week 1, so you take that with a grain of salt. Flip over to defense. Jalen Johnson, the cornerback, he was hurt in week 1. Linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, actually only rated a 59.2 last year. Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle. We don't have his rating on here, but he's a noteworthy player. Maybe his best years are behind him, but we'll see.
Yes.
The biggest one on defense for them, though, is Montez Sweat, edge defender. Did not have a great year last year, 65.7 Pro Football Focus rating. He was at 86.4 in 2022, and then he got traded to the Bears in 2023. His final rating on Pro Football Focus was 74 in 2023, and then he last year 65.7. So kind of moving down now that he's on his own in Chicago. So, but still a threat off the edge for sure.
Yeah, Grady Jarrett was a 60.2 this in the first week. Let me just look here. So last year he was 62.1, then a 70.1 the year before, and then 71.3. His main years were 2018 and 2019. He was in the 90s,
right?
As far as PFF, but now he's
well,
more
if we're using that, we
pack.
can see what Zach Cunningham was in 2018 and 2019, and then we'll compare
exactly.
like that. Something Perfect. I usually do is try to put their NFL top 100 ratings down here also. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and there are no Bears on the top 100 list. So
no, there are not.
Sorry to be them.
Yep. Jalen Johnson is also, top corner. He did not play week 1. We're about to get to the injury report. He practiced in full. So I'm expecting him to play this week. So unfortunately, the Vikings got off scot-free, but we are not going to get off scot-free. So, whether they held him back last week and said, we're going to hold him for the Lions, I'm not sure, but seems like, Ben Johnson knew he needed all his horses for this week.
Maybe.
Yep. All right. Injury report. Couple worrisome injuries right off the bat. Jack Campbell did not practice today with an ankle injury. And the big one that I'm worried about is Taylor Decker did not practice today with a shoulder. Now, later in the season, sometimes these vets will get days off. I don't think this is happening in week 2. So and I don't know if it's the shoulder he had surgery on, but Taylor Decker did have a shoulder surgery, and that's why he was out initially in training camp. So if it's the same shoulder, that's really worrisome to me. I don't know if I would imagine Skipper would be, if Skipper's healthy this week, I'd imagine that he's in that spot. Now, we don't know. I haven't read anything, and they don't have to mention practice report. They don't show up practice report player or practice squad players do not show up on the injury report. So we don't know if he was there or not. I have not seen anything from the beat writers if he was at practice or not. And a lot of times they don't get to see that because they only get the first 15 minutes of practice. Trevor Nowaski and Sione Vaki, both practices, limited practices, which they were out week 1. So they're trending in a better direction. Depending on where you stand on this player, I'm happy about it. I know some people probably don't care either way or want him to be out. Terran Arnold, full practice with a groin injury. So he has to show up on the injury report because he was pulled for an injury, but he practiced in full. So I'm going to expect him to come and play. And Daniel Thomas, who's the new safety that we got, is listed as full practice, but he's going to be good to go too. Jacob, what is showing on the Bears injury report?
Real quick, before we move on to the Bears, I just want to go back and revisit the level of concern that you would have if Decker does not practice the whole week.
Yeah.
I mean, because we already know with Jamarco Jones and everything that we've been through with that, and just with our depth as it is. So right now, the tackles on the active roster: Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, Giovanni Manu.
Mm-hmm.
So if Decker does not, go, then you've got potentially, depending on what's going on with Skipper, let's say you have Manu starting. You got Manu starting on the left side against the Bears, week 2. Yeah. That's a nightmare situation for me.
Yes.
Honestly, it's not much better from what we saw from Skipper in practice. I don't know that I have that much more confidence in Skipper. Like, either way, it's a huge hit.
Mm-hmm. Man, from experience-wise, I'd rather have Skipper out there.
Right.
But, yeah, either way, it's not pretty. And I'm hoping when we see tomorrow's practice report, Taylor Decker's on there, at least in a limited, because if he doesn't practice on Thursday, then we better get ready. And the thing that's going to stink is that we're going to have to pull no matter who's starting on that side, you're going to have Brock Wright or Sam lined up over there, or have a back to Chip or whatever. It's going to limit some offensive capabilities that you have.
Really, really not ideal.
Yeah, exactly. All right, who's on the Bears practice report?
Moving on to the Bears injury report that was released just tonight on Wednesday night. Defensive back Kyler Gordon had a hamstring injury, did not practice. He actually was out week 1, but he is, the starting nickel for them. Defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, knee injury, also did not practice. He's a starting defensive tackle. He was out there last week. TJ Edwards, linebacker, hamstring injury. He got in a limited practice. He was actually out week 1, though. So, I mean, he's trying to come back from this hamstring injury. He got in limited work. Time is going to tell, whether he's going to be good to go. You got a full practice, as you mentioned, from Jalen Johnson. Full practice from DJ Moore, who was going through like an abdomen groin injury. And then, some of these other guys, Josh Blackwell, defensive back, Rashawn Johnson, running back, Jade Walker, wide receiver. Those are all limited practices as well. What's the most glaring thing that you see? I mean, does it do anything for you if you think, okay, good news, Grady Jarrett's out, or none of these guys really, there's nobody on this list that's like, okay, thank God they're not playing, or thank God they're,
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Johnson was the big thing, like him being practice. And then I don't know, did you watch the last, like after we got done with our podcast on Monday, did you watch the rest of the Bears Vikings game? Did you watch the whole thing?
I did.
DJ Moore, like I thought he was seriously injured.
Yes.
Oh my God. Like he was down, and I thought for sure it was like concussion or something, just the way he was down. And then it was like he sat 2 plays out and then he was back in. I don't know if he had a stinger in the shoulder or what, but
it looked abdomen really groin. Bad. That's where he got blown up, right in the stomach,
Yeah, it looked bad, but he came back in the game and then he had a full practice. So, I mean, that's fine. I thought after I saw the hit, I was like, oh, there's no way he's playing next week. Just the way he was down, I was like, we're going to avoid DJ Moore, but he's out there. So we'll have to deal with him. But it's fine. We'll do whatever. The Jalen Johnson thing was a big thing on the practice report. That's what I was waiting to see, is whether he was going to play or not. All right. I think it's going to be time. We're going to head over to our interview. We're going to interview Harrison Graham, who joined us last season. Runs Chicago Bears Now. You check him out on YouTube. So we'll head the interview, and then we'll see you on the flip side with their keys to victory and stuff like that.
Cool.
All right. We want to welcome back host of the Chicago Bears Now on YouTube, Harrison Graham. Thanks for joining us today. Got your 2-year-old to bed, so you can give us all your attention, right?
Yes. 3 dads here. We had a little chat about that before. It's we've exited the crib stage. It's in the toddler bed phase, so it's a process, but he's asleep and we're ready to go. So big game this weekend, boys. Loser leaves town game.
Oh man, that's one of us is going to be very sad on Sunday, sitting at 0-2. So, have you recovered from Monday night yet, or are you just used to this as a Bears fan, or what's your feeling?
I mean, it was familiar in a lot of ways. It was there were some signs of optimism. It's hard to know how to feel after a game like that. So I think I'm excited to see how they respond because it's all been you know how the offseason goes. Every team thinks they have a chance. Every team thinks they're going to be good, and everyone's excited about the Ben Johnson era. I'm sure we'll talk about that angle here. And now I'm actually eager to see, a little adversity early. Let's see how he handles that. So quick turnaround playing Monday night. So yeah, less time to prepare. So it'll be interesting.
Social media, like you would think the Lions have as good as we've been, like that they would give the Lions some leeway, but no, there are like doom and gloomers out there that are just ready to pack it in already. They're like, oh, what draft pick are we gonna be fighting for?
Mock
It's
draft
insane.
time.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like we've reverted back a few years. We're like, no, we're good. Packers are good. So let's start out with that. We're gonna talk about Ben Johnson. So we talked to you last year, right before the week 6 team matchup. You had asked us about Ben Johnson during that, and that at that point sounded like Ben Johnson was your number one go-to on that. Vrabel was number 2, who obviously went to the Patriots, and then you had Joe Brady on your list. Number 1, you're probably happy with getting Ben Johnson. So tell us about that, like what your feelings were, and then through training camp and what you've seen up through week 1. Have you liked what you saw? Did you see something different? Well, what were your expectations and what were your thoughts?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I know for a fact that I said all along that he was the guy. I mean, I wanted him or Jim Harbaugh the offseason before. And I think there's been a lot of Caleb Williams noise, and I think the root cause of that was letting a Matt Eberflus coach staff be the coaching staff to try and mesh with his personality in the first place and develop him in the first place. So that's a different conversation. But yeah, I've been impressed with this guy for a long time. I think what's really stood out is everyone knew how smart he was. The question from the outside looking in was, could this guy lead? Would this guy be someone of accountability? Because that was a major issue last year, and by all accounts, that's been the case. He's run a hard training camp. This has not been, a padded practice, 3 non-padded practices. I mean, they had some physical practices to the point when Miami was in town. You had Dolphins beat reporters complaining about how physical the practice was, and we saw what happened to them in week 1. So no, I think he's as advertised. Obviously, the opening game did not finish great. They have blown games in the past as well. But I look at that game more of just, especially offensively, I don't think the execution was good enough. They had 12 penalties. They had a couple rough calls go against them, but I think that's his biggest challenge is the core of this team has lost a lot of games like that. How can he, turn the tide there? Like they've been close a lot the last couple of years, and they've lost a lot of unfortunate games. So I think that's his biggest challenge. I think he knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy. He's hard-nosed enough. Dennis Allen's a good hire. I think through 3 quarters, he had J.J. McCarthy in jail, and the defense just ran out of gas at the end. So, yeah, I've been impressed so far. He's the guy I wanted. I haven't wavered off that just because of one game that didn't finish well. And I'm eager to see how he handles going back into this environment. I mean, we've already heard St. Brown and the Lions side of this. I'm sure they're going to be motivated to not only get their first one of the season, but to remind him that, hey, you did a good job here, but this operation wasn't just because of you. So I think there's a lot of motivation on both sides this weekend.
So the way that game ended there, the kickoff, so they ran the Vikings pulled it out basically, so you guys lost a timeout. Do you think that was on the kicker? Do you think Ben Johnson didn't tell him to kick it out of bounds? Well, what do you think happened there? I mean, what's the talk?
Intent was to kick it out of the end zone. The problem is the next day he acknowledged that the safer and smarter option, if they weren't going to go onside, would just be to kick it out of bounds because Cairo Santos does not have the strongest leg. So he was going to have to kick a perfect ball to hit that out of the end zone, and he didn't. So I was saying it at the time because we go live for these games. I'm like, this is pretty risky. I mean, he doesn't have the strongest leg. I mean, he's going to have to hit a perfect ball because clearly Kevin O'Connell said, if you catch that ball, I don't care if it's 9.5 yards into the end zone, bring it out, because if we clear the 2-minute warning, we can essentially run the clock out, which is what happened. So I think, really, to be honest, he probably should have just onside kicked it. But if you are going to kick it, either you have to be 100% sure that ball is going out of the end zone, or you have to kick it out of bounds and just concede the 40-yard line, which is only a 5-yard difference nowadays anyway because of the touchback. So I think that was probably a learning moment for him in a first game as a head coach of like, yeah, like I just let's increase the probability here, even if all my options aren't great, because I mean, onside kick, low percentage, kick it out of bounds, even if you get a 3 and out, they're going to punt it with less than a minute left, probably pin you back pretty deep. So I mean, it's not like he had great options there, but yeah, I think that was mismanaged.
Yep.
Something to learn, as he gets some more games under his belt for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't kill him for that either, because like you said, they're all low percentage options, but it just happened to be
It'd be one thing if he had no timeouts left and kicked it deep. It'd be like, dude, like you have to onside kick. So, he's kind of working his way through like, okay, if this scenario plays out, we might have a 7% chance of winning. If we go this route, maybe it's 5%. Like none of the options were great. So I'm not going to bury him for that one.
Yep. Nope. All right, Jacob.
For sure. All right. So, talked about the offense. The Lions have been dealing with some offensive line issues. The Bears rebuilt theirs during the offseason. So how do you feel about your offensive line group?
I think it's better. I do think Minnesota gave him trouble. I mean, that Flores is as good as it gets. The Hargrave and Jonathan Allen additions have already paid dividends. They combined for 13 pressures. Jonah Jackson, an old friend of y'all's, did not have a good debut. So we'll see. He didn't have a great year last year in LA. He was hurt. We'll see. I mean, when he was playing his best, it was with Ben. So I think they're hopeful he can get back to that, but it was not a good debut. But I do think overall it's definitely better. I mean, Joe Tooney's a stud, obviously. Dahlman's a really good run game center. He's kind of average in pass pro, but he's a smart guy who can help set the protections and identify stuff pre-snap. Definitely an upgrade from what they've had. Darnell Wright continues to improve. He had a really good opener. Did have a false start and kind of got hosed on a holding call that really wasn't a hold. A lot of offensive line experts have broken that down on social media. But, the left tackle spot was a big talking point in training camp. They ended up rolling with Braxton Jones, who's been the guy. I thought he was fine in the opener, and playing Joe Tooney next to him certainly helps. I think you can get by there. So, yeah, it's improved. Is it elite? Has it all come together yet? Probably not. I don't think they did super well, especially in creating run lanes in the opener. I think that's an area to watch in this game. I think Chicago really has to get the run game going because I just don't think Caleb Williams is far enough in this new offense to just expect him to carry things. Like you got to be able to run the football. And you guys know as explosive as the Lions offense has been and was under Ben, he ran the ball a ton. I mean, it was a core part of his game plan and offense. So clearly, DeAndre Swift is not Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but they got to be more effective than what they were in the opener. So I think they'll try to establish that a little bit more this week.
Yep.
Something that we noticed right away is like, Ben Johnson trying to rebuild kind of what he had here right away, trying to, start in the trenches, just, get a new offensive line, try to get his own thing going there. That's the way to win football games, right? That's where it starts.
Trying to get a Sam Laporta right away, getting Colson Loveland over there. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, they're excited about him. I think he'll kind of continue to be more and more involved as the year goes on.
Yeah, Jacob and I are well familiar with Colson Loveland being a Michigan man. We were happy that he got drafted so high, not happy that he went in the division to you guys.
Yeah.
But because I know what type of player he can be, he's going to be a weapon for you guys. All right, you mentioned him, Caleb Williams. Number one, we're a week into his career. What are your impressions of Caleb so far?
My biggest concern with him is not even like, look, like Ben's offense is pretty complex. I mean, even Case Keenum has come out and said this is one of the more complicated offenses I've ever learned. He's been in the league for 13 years. I can live with some growing pains with that part of it, all the pre-snap motion, the verbiage, all that stuff. I'm cool with all that. Going back to last year and even on Monday night, there are just throws that have nothing really, in my opinion, at least from an outsider's perspective, to do with the learning the offense or the scheme, where it's just like he's set, he throws, it's way off target. I don't understand it because this was not a weakness of his coming out of college. I think the one thing was, hey, if he doesn't work in the NFL, what is the reason? I would have never said accuracy. That would not have been one that would have held me back or held him back, in my opinion. He was a very accurate quarterback in college in the pocket. He was very accurate on the move. So, like the 4th and 3 play, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about in the first half. He's got DJ on kind of like a slant, skinny post thing, and it's just way out in front. And it's just like, is he too amped up? Is it? I don't know what it is. He's got a lot of overthrows in his career, especially on vertical passes. So, Ben today kind of talked about it, and he says a lot of it is tied to the footwork. When the footwork is clean, he throws a more accurate ball. And there's probably a lot of truth to that, but it's not even just the miss, it's how much he's missing by sometimes. I'm like, I don't understand a 15-yard pass being 3.5 yards in front of a guy. Like, I can understand it being 1.5 yards in front. I can understand it being on his back hip instead of his front hip. So that's been my biggest just surprise since he's entered the league. I got to think and hope that can improve because that was not an area of weakness coming out, but it's something I'm keeping an eye on at this point because every game he's played in, even the good ones he's played in, like a Thanksgiving game last year against you guys when he kind of started to get hot and cook, there was a throw late in that game, just a simple shallow cross to DJ Moore. If he puts it on his hip, it's probably a touchdown, and he just skips it to him. So I'm just like, I never saw that when I watched him and evaluated him coming out. So that's my biggest concern. Obviously, there's little things like he holds the ball too long sometimes. The processing isn't fully sped up. That stuff I can live with because I think that will come. But the random inaccuracies, I can't compute it. So I'm hoping that improves, but that's one thing that's bothered me.
That's funny that you mentioned that because that's when I watched that game on Monday, I mean, I don't watch all the Bears games, but when I saw that, I was like, like some of the passes were not even close. He'll go and run that Roma Dunze play where he's running and he hits him like on that first drive. It was an amazing throw. And I'm like, oh man, because that's the way the game started out. And then Jacob and I were actually recording our podcast while we were doing it, but I had, on the TV right here, and, I get to look up every once in a while, and then I would just see like a pass, like an out to the sideline, and he would just be way over the guy's head, or like the receiver wouldn't even like try for it because it was so far out of the way. So like it's baffling to me that
there was like a flat route to Cole Kmet. It's like 5 yards over his head. I'm like, I mean, did you throw that away? Like, it's just not even close. It's weird because, to your point, like he makes the hard look easy and the easy look hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's why I am hopeful still, because if he could just like get better at the easy stuff, he can do the hard stuff. So we'll see. I mean, I think a lot of it is probably attributed that his mind is probably moving a mile a minute right now. And Ben kind of has said this throughout camp too, like, hey, we've got 4 games in that week 5 bye. Realistically, that first month could be a bumpy ride. So it's not like he's been blowing smoke about this just hitting the ground running without any bumps early. But there still is just certain plays where it's like, okay, regardless of like the scheme, the progression, all that, it's like you just have to throw a better ball. So that's just got to improve, whether it's the mechanics of the footwork or whatever it is, concentration. I don't know what it is, but if that stuff doesn't fix, you're always going to have limitations because you just can't leave those just simple throws on the table.
Right.
What was your thoughts about the stuff that came out about this summer that he didn't want to go to the Bears and, the Vikings were on his list? Was that Oh, I mean, is there fire there with the smoke, or is it just something that got said, or how did the Bears fans react to that in general?
There were deep rumors like back in the time of like, would Caleb pull an Eli? And, a lot of that got dismissed, and clearly he didn't. But I kind of, I don't want to say gave him a pass, but it's like, I also don't really blame him. I mean, look at the history. They don't develop quarterbacks. Now, I think a lot of that is they've just picked the wrong one. Like you pick Mitch Trubisky over Mahomes and Watson. Obviously, Watson's career's gone astray for different reasons, but, Mitch Trubisky is just not a good player. But, a guy like Justin Fields who, listen, I still get people asking me about Fields. Like, of course, he plays great this week, and Caleb's kind of average. They should have kept Fields. Like years later, it's like, guys, he did get 3 years. It wasn't like he didn't get a shake at all. But yeah, I think Caleb and his dad, they're very detail, research oriented people, and they're like, well, the Bears' history doesn't have a 4,000-yard passer, doesn't have a 30 touchdown passer. Their best quarterback ever is someone by the name of Sid Luckman in the 1940s. So I'm supposed to be offended that he wanted to play for Kevin O'Connell. Yeah. So,
right.
Had they fired Eberflus and brought in Jim Harbaugh or Ben Johnson then, and he had those same thoughts, I would have been a little bit more like, all right, man, like they brought in a very credible coach to bring you in, and you're still having these thoughts. Like I'd be a little more bothered by it, but it's like I'd be concerned too. History of the franchise, Matt Eberflus is supposed to develop me. I would have concerns. And in the end, he went through the process, took his visit, and he was cool coming. So there's been a lot of noise out there. This Tyler Dunn guy put something out recently. Clearly, it was not a good fit with the staff and Caleb last year, and I think there's blame on both sides. I am kind of over last year. To me, it's like, okay, the organization took your side, right? Like they brought in Ben Johnson, they beefed up the offensive line, they added more skill talent. Now it's kind of on Caleb. Like it's you either figure it out. Doesn't mean it has to happen today, but like you either figure it out in relatively short manner or you don't. So it's a big year for him, and we'll see if it works or not. I still think he's supremely talented. Ben's obviously a smart guy, so time will tell.
Would you be disappointed, or I guess would you call it a disappointment, if Caleb doesn't hit 4,000 yards this season?
Depending on the context. I mean, if he threw for like 38-50 and clearly improved and they were a competitive team, I don't know if I'd be like devastated. But
that's about what he threw last year, right? He was close to 4,000.
He threw for 35 and change and then rushed for just under 500. So he had over 4,000 all purpose. I just want it to, by the end of this year, I want to say, okay, this was clearly better than last year and the arrow's pointing up. If that's not the case, that's a disappointment, regardless of what the numbers are. So like his rookie year has to be the floor. Like if it's worse than that, that's an issue because you have much better stability this year and better talent.
For sure.
Nice.
All right, switch over the defense here. So Ben Johnson brings Dennis Allen over. I know you already mentioned him, but after training camp, after seeing him in action for 1 week, what are your thoughts on the defense? Do you think the defense is looking better this year? What can we expect from them?
I like it. More aggressive. Matt Eberflus, as bad of a rep as he got, he's not a bad defensive coach. Now, his scheme's kind of vanilla. He doesn't like to blitz a lot, which bothered me. I think he's, Flus's defense was very much like all 11 got to be doing their job. And if someone breaks down, you're going to get beat. I prefer an aggressive mindset, like a Flores type, where even if someone makes a mistake somewhere, if you're applying pressure, if you're more exotic, you still might get away with it, right? You might get burned sometimes if you're blitzing aggressively, but I like someone who's willing to take chances. And when J.J. McCarthy threw a pick six, it was a zero blitz. Man-to-man coverage across the board, cover zero, force him into an early throw, pick six the other way. A lot of the time on third down, Flus would just sit back and try to be bend, don't break. I'd rather take matters into my own hands. So he's already shown the willingness to do that more. I mean, they were without Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and TJ Edwards, not just three starters, three of your top five starters on defense, and through three quarters had the Vikings in a blender. To Kevin O'Connell's credit, he found some mismatches. He got Aaron Jones on Noah Sewell, who was filling in at linebacker. A little wheel route to him for a touchdown. They got the run game going a little bit in that fourth quarter. JJ made a couple of throws, built some confidence, and they put some points up. But the defense was more than good enough to win that game. The offense in the second half just completely sputtered, and the defense ran out of gas. And one of your backup corner, the backup corner who had the pick six, got hurt in the game. So then you're down to like your fifth corner on the field. So sounds like Jalen's going to be back this week. That it was a walkthrough practice today since they played on Monday, but he was listed as full. I would guess he goes. Kyler's trending up as well, I think. So we'll see if he gives it a go. But if at least one of those guys is back, that'll help. I did see today. Now it was a walkthrough practice, so we'll see tomorrow. But Grady Jarrett was estimated as a DNP. So not sure if something happened in the game there, but that would obviously put a dent to the depth at defensive tackle this week. But yeah, all things considered, I thought it was a good debut for the defense, and I think Dennis is gonna, be a little bit more exotic and more aggressive than what you guys have probably seen the last couple of years with Matt Eberflus.
I was not happy when you guys got Dennis Allen. I can tell you that, because that's exactly, I knew he always manages a good defense, and yeah, I was not happy that it was a good hire by Ben.
Well, and what's great about it too is if it hits, then I'm not saying he's as good or as accomplished as a Steve Spagnuolo, but he's not getting a third crack as a head coaching job. So like you've got him for as long as you want him, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was another. There was a lot of reasons to like it. He's been a head coach twice before, even though he failed in that regard. There's experiences there he can help Ben out with. You can trust him to run the defense. And if it works, well, you've got the same scheme that can build years over years over years, because he's not going anywhere unless he, retires or whatever. So, I'm pretty excited about it.
All right. So a guy he manages, Montez Sweat, he's making $25 million this year. So it puts him like his average value per contract is like ninth in the league for his position. Are you satisfied with his play? I mean, I see his PFF grades going down. Those, I'm going to trust your judgment over PFF just because you watch him play and break down his play. So is he still the same player? Is he worth that money? Are you happy with his play?
I think that's up in the air, to be honest. Last year, he did not have a great year. I was told by multiple people I trust that he was playing through a foot injury. So I kind of came into this camp, open-minded that he could get back to, because after they traded for him in 23, I mean, that was the best year of his career. He had 12 and a half sacks. He was dominant. I won't say he was a Trey Hendrickson or a Micah Parsons, but he was kind of in that second tier group of like, okay, this is a really good player. He's excellent edge setting defensive end. He's always been good against the run, and a pretty good pass rusher. Last year, he was kind of just average across the board. So I would say since the start of last season, he has not lived up to that contract, which is a disappointment. They need him to. I thought he played fine in the opener. He had a tackle for loss on a bootleg by JJ. He got in McCarthy's face, and his long arms, he was able to swat a pass away on what could have been a touchdown pass. So that was a difference-making play. But he's getting paid to, get after the quarterback a lot. And we have not seen that consistently since the start of last year. So I would say overall, no, but let's see this play out a little bit more this year. He is fully healthy now. What I will say is Dayo Adengbo, who they signed this offseason, who kind of had a quiet training camp, was pretty damn good in the opener. Now, Christian Darrisaw did not play, so it was their swing tackle, but you paid him $16 million. It's nice to see him kind of dominate that guy. So he was in the backfield consistently, had a sack, hit McCarthy a couple of times, very close to a couple strip sacks. So he popped to me. So if between those two, they can just be pretty good, I'm not going to say I'd be thrilled, but at least it would be better combined than what they've had last year. But long term, I still look at kind of that position group like they need to find a dominant player. I don't know if it's finding someone in the draft or a trade or a free agent down the road, but to me, Montez Sweat ideally is like your number 2 guy, and he's being paid and being asked to be your number 1. And when they first traded for him, he was doing that, but since the start of last year, he's been more productive as like a secondary guy.
All right.
Yeah, for a little while.
Right.
I mean, when the trade first happened, the rest of that year and everything, he just was absolutely killing it. And we were like,
It was unreal.
Great, the Bears got, top edge defender. And then, for last year to be, the way that it went. So, final question for you. Just overall, a prediction for the game. So, it doesn't have to be the final score or anything like that. But if you're just making a prediction about something that's going to happen, what do you think's a lock?
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick the Bears in this spot. I know Detroit, and I'd be curious to hear you guys' perspective. I know it didn't look great in the opener, but I just think Detroit's got better players still. I predicted Lions 27-21. I think it'll be a good game. Just, the Bears are still very much like they got to prove to us that they can win these tight games. Like they just haven't done it. The opener was a great opportunity they had several times to put that game away. Really. I mean, they dominating is a strong word, but like they were in control of that game. And then they get the tough bad call on Darnell Wright, which backs them up. They end up missing a field goal there to start the fourth quarter, and then they just unravel. It's like, come on, guys. Like you can't let that type of stuff. You can't just fold after that. So we'll see what they do. I'd be impressed if they won this game. I mean, I still think Detroit is a force. I picked Detroit to win the division. So, I'm curious from you guys before I get out of here what y'all thought of the opener on both sides of the ball. I mean, I'm with you. I think Green Bay is going to be really good, but I didn't really expect that. I mean, they kind of pushed you guys around. So what were the takeaways there?
You want to go first, or you want me to go, Jacob?
Yeah, just not being able to stop them on third down. We were getting them in those third and long situations, and they were able to capitalize pretty much every time. And, then when it flipped around, we could not get the run game going. We have the young offensive line. The problems that we were worried that might happen were happening right away. There were some missed assignments, no running lanes to block in. The play calling, we don't know, was the first with the new offensive coordinator, obviously. So we don't know exactly, if that's just the way the trend the game was going, or if that's just how things are. Goff had to check down a lot. He had 10 catches in that game, which is, 10 catches for 31 yards too. So it's not like, they were designed to go that way. So it just was one of those things. It just seemed like nothing was going right from the beginning. And then it just got out of hand as the game went on.
Jeff Risdon, who's a beat writer for the Lions, had a good quote. He said, "Packers came prepared to play the Lions. The Lions came prepared to play football." And it looked like the Packers just had answers for what the Lions do. They were calling man beaters, and that's how they beat us on those thirds. But they were running pick plays. It just looked like they were ready for, especially early on, where they had the script. They were ready for to get up on us early, and then they did get up on us early. We had a couple long drives. We just couldn't score in the red zone. So there are a lot of fans around here that are just like crazy up in arms. And because it looked, the Packers, frankly, they dominated us. But, I've seen enough football games that where a game will start off a certain way, and then the Packers got a good enough defense that they just kept everything in front of you. And the Lions were playing patient, but at some point you got to stop playing patient when it gets to the third quarter and fourth quarter and you're down by a couple scores. They had you. And, it'd been one thing, they come up and score, and then we go right down and score, or we ended up with, get down, we score right out the half and get within one score. We just couldn't do it. And not overly concerned, but it's not how I expected the game to go either.
Yeah, clearly Green Bay thinks they're good. Otherwise, you don't make that Micah move. That's kind of a, hey, we feel like we could compete for a Super Bowl, so we're going to go make this move. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do think that game was bigger for Green Bay, almost like we got to justify this trade. Let's go beat the Lions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I don't think it's the end of the world for you guys. And it was probably one of those, I had this thought too, kind of like with Ben and the Bears, it might take a few weeks. The Lions are loaded, but it is two new coordinators. They may just not hit the ground right. The one thing I will say, and I think I vaguely remember talking about this with you guys last time, I just assumed that Dan Campbell would promote Tanner Engstrand. And I know it's one game, but that might be the best game I've ever seen Justin Fields play. I assume that Campbell did not offer him the gig, right? Surely he would have stayed if that was the case.
I would think so. So unless Tanner wanted to go with AG for some reason, I would imagine Tanner would have stayed. Any of those guys would have stayed with Detroit with what Detroit has, the continuity. So I don't know if Dan wanted more experience with John Morton, someone that Jared Goff was familiar with. But yeah, I'm with you. And there's a lot of people that are saying we should have hired Tanner. It's one game. It's week one.
Yeah.
That's all we have, as Lions fans or as NFL fans. We have week one. So everything, that's our only facts. Week one is typically a liar. There's a lot of things that, you look back at the end of the season and you're like, I had that thought at some point that
Gardner Minshew was a week one merchant with the Jags. The only reason I mention it is just because this is just me, like, logical thought process is, okay, we lose Ben Johnson. What is my best chance of keeping what looks closest to Ben Johnson's offense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't know anything about Tanner Engstrand. I was like, pass game coordinator. He's been in the building. So that's the only reason I ask. But I do think if you're a Lions fan, even though week one went ugly, I think you still have to just have some faith in Dan Campbell's process. So, this is a big game, though, guys. I mean, the loser of this game is, it's not DEFCON 9, but it's history tells us you start 0-2, your chances of making the playoffs dwindle significantly. So, it's a pretty big game on Sunday.
Not only is it 0-2, it's 0-2 in the division as well for both teams.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the kicker of it, right? I mean, that's the tough thing is that you went to a hole with that. So yeah,
we also have the Ravens looming. We have the Ravens looming after this game too. So I mean, an 0-2 with the Ravens on is it's a tall task there. You don't want to do that.
No.
Well, that's what's brutal about the Bears not finishing that game off. I mean, even if there's still some stuff after the game, the offense, a lot of pre-snap stuff. Like, well, you won the game against a good team. Like, any way you beat Minnesota in that game, I would have been happy with it. So to not close it, that's what's the bummer of it. So just raises the stakes for this week. So can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Now, do you go to the games in Chicago, Harrison? Or
no, we go live on our channel, kind of do some live like reaction stuff. So
okay,
we'll be live. So if you guys win, if your audience wants to search Chicago Bears now on YouTube, I'm sure I'll be in shambles at the end of the game if they want to. Tell them to go watch the end of the Thanksgiving game last year. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, can't imagine with the Eberflus. Yeah.
Call the timeout.
Oh my God,
unbelievable.
No, Harrison, thanks for joining us. Like Harrison said, go check out Chicago Bears now. You can get, for this matchup and for the later on matchup too. I'm sure he's got good information you can find. If you want more Bears information, you gave us a lot in just a half an hour you talked to us. So I imagine on a longer show, you can give you more. So go check that out. We appreciate the time that you've given us. Glad your son slept the whole time. I did not see him creep behind you at any. I was hoping that for comedic purposes he would show up, but he did not show up behind you.
Maybe next time, if we do a little earlier, we'll do a little meet and greet. We'll do that.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys, y'all take care.
All right, thanks. All right, welcome back to Talking Grit. All right, Jacob, it is time for Keys to Victory. How are we going to win this game? You want to start or you want me to start?
You can go ahead first.
All right. I got two of them. I want us to get up early. I want us to get up early, and there's multiple reasons for that. Number one, relieve my anxiety. Number two, get the crowd into it because as we talked, they have a new interior offensive line. Even at home, they had a lot of false starts, right? And last week, I want the crowd to be a factor and cause them to just stall their drives out with shooting themselves in the foot. So that's what I want. It's going to be important for us to score right away. I wouldn't even mind getting the ball first and just, running right down the field and getting a first score. Typically, I want to kick off and play the halftime thing, the extra possession thing, but I wouldn't even mind taking it right away and just going down and scoring.
I mean, that's kind of what we had to do last year when we knew we weren't going to be able to stop very many people. Get the ball and let's try to get ahead and stay ahead.
Yep.
No, I would be okay with that. I definitely think that's the first drive. Doesn't really, we want to set the tone, but it's never really been like, well, you know what, we didn't get it done. Now the whole game is over with. But with how we looked last week, it is going to be concerning if we don't put points on the board pretty quickly. So I'm, maybe not exactly the first drive, but you got to at least move the ball the first drive. We can't go 3 and out at home.
That's right.
For my key to victory, the first one, I'll go defense. We've got to stop Caleb Williams from scrambling. We've got to limit those scrambles. And I'll just combine this with it, I guess. But I want to see less of Hutchinson and Davenport dropping back into coverage. I don't know if that's just the way the defense is going to look. Like if that's just how Shepard wants things, wants to do things, or if that was specific to Green Bay. But that's just not, it didn't work last week. I don't think it's going to work for most, scrambling quarterbacks just because, like let's say that Branch got home or like he busted through the line. Well, Branch is probably a bad example because he's pretty fast, but let's say Anzalone breaks through the line. They can see it coming. Well, if they don't have anybody because Davenport's 10 yards down the field, then Caleb Williams is just going to take that. And he's going to be quick to run. So I definitely think that a big key is going to be to try to limit him from getting these huge chunk plays. And, third and long, it's just such a killer for us on third and long when we've got him where we want him. And then the quarterback scrambles around and runs. Reminiscent of Justin Fields and the way the Bears moved the ball, when he was on the team. It just seemed to happen over and over again.
Yeah, I don't think Lions fans are going to necessarily like what my solution to your issue is that we play more like contain with him and just let Caleb Williams make a mistake and just make him beat us inside the pocket. He either will hold the ball too long and then do something stupid. I mean, he's done some amazing things. On that first drive, he had the really nice pass to Roma Dunze. I think it was Roma Dunze out of bounds. But I think when he does stuff like that, he just thinks he could do that every play and he'll hold the ball forever. So I think what I mean by, we just need to contain him is stay in your rush lanes, just crush and condense the pocket. I don't want to see Hutchinson cut inside, do a spin move inside and then leave everything behind him open. Like he could do the spin move inside if there's a linebacker covering, competing that edge or whatever. But I just don't want to see us to go all out blitz. And then, Caleb runs for 20 yards because that is, number one, so deflating. And number two, obviously it's better for the Bears offensively. So I'm hoping that we can, just crunch that pocket. And I think that is going to be a big key to the game. I think you're exactly right. Make Caleb beat us with his arm because I don't trust that he could do it for a whole game.
Absolutely.
My second key to victory is weather the early storm, because if you watched Monday's night game, the offense looked amazing when the plays were scripted for Caleb, but then as soon as they got out of that, it's like punt, turnover on downs. Like I'm feeling that, he's really good at those practice plays, but then when they start getting in the rhythm of the game, he either tries to do too much, he can't, he just couldn't get in a rhythm. So even if they go out and they score right away, say they get the ball first and they come right down the field, don't get worried about it. Just weather that storm and then just come back and punch them right back in the mouth with our offense.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right on with the way that the game went, because that was like the best mix that they had of plays was just that first drive coming out when they already knew what they were going to be doing. Pass complete, short, swift run, short middle, another swift run, a deep right throw, a short left, and then he scrambles for a touchdown. And then the next drive, he completes a pass for 1 yard. He scrambles for 12. Short pass, screen pass is negative yards. They punt. Next drive, deep pass for 30 yards, then a scramble, then a swift run, and then, it's just the scrambles are way too frequent in here. And they weren't always successful, but, the Vikings are usually pretty good at snuffing that kind of thing out. So we just got to do better. So for my other key to victory, what I have is we've got to run the ball, man. We can't do what we did against Green Bay. That was just such a big reason why we lost, is that we were not able, the missed assignments on the offensive line and the fact that running lanes were not there. We are not going to win very many games if we can't establish the run. Obviously, we've got a good quarterback. Jared Goff's able to move the ball around, but I mean, it starts with the run. That's what opens everything else up. And I do believe that we're going to be able to fix that. We're going to have more success this time. But to be able to have the kind of success we have last year, you just have to, I know we talked about this briefly before, but you have to know your assignment. It's one thing to just kind of whiff or get beat or you kind of get pushed and you only slow him down a little bit. It's a whole nother thing when you forget the defensive tackles there on your own goal line and leave David Montgomery to try to, prevent a safety. So, I mean, that's, the big one on offense for me is just get that run game going.
I think it'll help being at home. They were running on a silent count last week, and obviously first game for Ratledge, and, Mahogany made it, and the practice field, he was just mauling guys. It's just a matter of them not communicating. Even Decker said today that him and Ratledge at one play, ran a different play than the other three guys. And so Decker didn't get the call either. So
it's probably that all 22 we
was-
showed where he just completely whiffed on that guy.
Yeah.
Which we didn't talk about this one, but there was somebody else had shared one where as soon as the ball is snapped, Graham's blocking the person that's lined up over him. As soon as the ball is snapped, Graham goes to push him, and then Ratledge takes a step back and then is standing behind Graham, pushing Graham's butt into the other guy.
Hey.
That's how bad that got last week.
Yeah.
We have to clean that up.
Yep. I will say that last year, just a couple more things that I don't know if these are necessarily keys to victory, but just things to look out for tomorrow or Sunday. Caleb Williams struggles against man coverage. He was like the 11th worst rated quarterback against man coverage. Obviously, the Lions run that more than anybody else. So I look for that to continue. Hopefully, those struggles continue. And the second thing, Dennis Allen, one of his hallmarks on his defense is they play a lot of press man. So that will mess with your timing route. So the Lions have to either get off on press or, be ready for that. So, you could look to line J-Mo off the ball a little bit. Well, it'd be interesting if Tesla gets more snaps, how he fights off the press, if they have him lined in the traditional X row where he's on the line of scrimmage. We'll see. But those are the things that, you got to look out for. You got anything else in keys to victory?
Nope, that was it.
All right. Time for the Roar Alert, which is a new segment we added this year. If you didn't listen last week, it's who's going to make some noise in this Lions game. It's predict a player or who's going to make a play. Jacob, who do you got for your Roar Alert this week?
For this week, I went with a defensive player for my Roar Alert. So Curb was very quiet last week. He only had one tackle. He didn't exactly have a whole lot of opportunity either, but I expect Kirby to come out and try to make something happen. Could be an interception, maybe. Could just be a big stop. But I think that Kirby's going to do something noteworthy to help win this game.
All right. I like it. Now, mine didn't pick a player. I picked the whole side of the ball, the offense.
Okay.
Ben Johnson's over there, right? They want to show Ben. I mean, we struggled last week. I think that they want to show Ben that, hey, it was us. It wasn't you. This is it. So the Lions just need that in general. That's been the hallmark of this team. We need to go out with the offense. I just want to see a strong showing from the offense. I think a lot of it goes with what you said in the keys to victory, running the ball, because it all starts there. We need to be able to pull in the linebackers, be able to run play action pass, and then, if we're dominating the run game, that pulls up the safeties, and then we say, oh, you forgot about J-Mo over the top. A lot of it runs off. Now, you could go the other way. We could pass to open up the run, but I just think the Lions want to do the run game, and I think that's the way it's going to have to go. And I agree with your keys to victory, and I think that's how the offense is going to dominate. We're going to, run the ball. I know that we ran 2/3 Jameer and 1/3 Dave Montgomery. This is the Chicago Bears. Dave Montgomery always runs strong against his former team, so it may be closer to 50-50 on this one. Especially early in the season. Demo seems to, last year, early in the season, he just was dominant at the beginning of the year. So I'd like to see Dave Montgomery, just pound some of these, them just trying to arm tackle him and he runs through them. That's what I want to see. So
also limit just the fact that Jameer had so many, he had 19 rushing attempts last week. Or sorry, he had 9 rushing attempts last week, but he had 10 catches. So he had 19 touches last week.
Yeah.
So maybe we try to even that out, give him a little bit of a breather.
The 10 catches is amazing, and they only got 30 yards. I like him getting 10 catches and 10 looks, and usually you could count on him, making a guy miss. But Packers are so strong running to the ball, and they were letting everything, keeping everything in front of them, that it wasn't just one guy Jameer had to make miss. There was like two linebackers or a corner, defensive back and a linebacker right there. I was impressed with, Packers defense. But Dan Campbell said today that a lot of it, and just I had said this too, it was the way the game started. They got put in a position that the Packers could play defense like that. Don't let everything go over the top. And I know the Lions, we couldn't run the ball to pull anybody in. And a lot of times we'll run, crossers over the middle. We didn't have any time. It was like this perfect storm for the Packers.
Right.
And that's why I think it looks like a blowout. And you may be out there worried, like, oh, the Lions just look really bad. It's one of those things that when a game kind of gets out of hand, it just spirals and, it looks really, really bad. If the game starts out different, and we got them on third down the first in the drive 3 times, and they weren't even third and shorts. They were like long, and we let them off the hook. If we get any of those stops, that game is totally different, because in the second half, our defense played much better. So there's positive things that I see going on, and I think that's going to carry into this game.
Well said.
All right. Well, time for the grit guarantee.
It's time for the grit guarantee.
I'll go first. Mine's kind of go with the keys to victory. I'm going to say there's going to be 3 or more false starts by the Bears offensive line in this game.
Okay.
And I'm going to take credit just by myself, because I'll be in the crowd, for at least one of them.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm good for one false start just with my voice. If the rest of the 65,000 fans can get 2 more, we'll be good. So I'm saying 3 or more false starts on the Bears offensive line.
I like that. I'm usually pretty good for that.
Yeah.
My grit guarantee, so the over-under right now is set at 46.5. I'm going to say under. In a game where people are talking about the offenses and we're expecting sparks to fly, I think maybe, we control the time of possession that way and end up wearing them down with the running game. And hopefully most of those 46.5 points are the Lions. I wouldn't mind blowing them away, but I do think that we're going to be under 46.5.
All right. I like it. Well, I mean, we had the hallmarks of that the last game. Like, we had those long 7-8 minute drives. We just couldn't get away with touchdowns. So let's have that same thing. Keep those long drives, get that time possession up, but just get 7 at the end of it as opposed to 3 or turnover
Put
or
the
something
points
like
on
that.
the board.
Exactly. All right. Well, it's time for us to move on to our grit picks.
Grit picks.
All right, Jacob, you want to review how last week went?
Last week, we tied. So both of us, me and Jason, both went 3-1. Not the same 3 games, though. Thursday night football, we both went Eagles over Cowboys. The Eagles won. Friday night football, we both picked Chargers over Chiefs, and the Chargers got it done. Sunday night football, Ravens at Bills. I went with the Ravens. You went with the Bills, and the Bills came back and won a very close game there. And then the following night, Monday night football, Vikings at Bears. I went with the Vikings. You went with the Bears. And then in this game, the Vikings kind of came back and won a close one there. So, So we both went 3-1 there.
I think we both went 3-1 even at halftime of those games, because it was obviously the Ravens and the Bears had that game won for like probably the first 3 quarters of both those games, and then the other team came back. So I thought it was ironic that we both went 3-1.
Right.
All right, Jacob. Thursday night football this week. Got a division opponent we can watch, who we just played, the Packers. The Commanders come to Lambeau Field. Packers are 3.5-point favorites. Who do you have in this game?
I think this is going to be a good game. The Packers obviously coming off a huge win against us. The Commanders are coming off a win against the Giants. Commanders did not exactly show out as much as people were expecting. So I think Washington's really going to need to try to get it going offensively. It's going to be a close game. Packers just already played at home, back-to-back home games to start off the season. I'm going to say that Sainer still gets a pick off Jordan Love, and I'm going to say that Washington wins the game.
Going with the Commanders. I like it. And that's who I'll be rooting for. However, I look for the Packers to keep their streak going. They get 2 home games to start off the season. That means that they're going to have, a stretch. I haven't looked, that much in their schedule, but they're going to have a stretch of, a lot of road games at some point, probably 3 in a row at some point. If you're starting out with 2 games on the,
Right.
at home early. All right. Sunday Night Football, another division opponent, man. We NFC North just getting all these primetime games. Monday Night Football, we had the 4:00 game. Now they're starting off with Thursday Night Football and Sunday Night Football. Falcons go to Minnesota. I, unfortunately, am picking Minnesota to win this game. JJ got, Offensive Player of the Week in week 1. That's crazy to me. And stats weren't that outrageous, but he, after he turned through that pick 6, he was a different quarterback. And I mean, showed you some real resiliency. I don't know if I said that right or not, but you know what I'm talking about. Good for JJ. It was a division game, so honestly, it wasn't that big a deal. But any other time, I'm probably not rooting for him to come back because we just want Minnesota to lose. We want our division to lose. Who do you got, Atlanta or Minnesota?
Right. So Kirk Cousins, back in Minnesota as the backup quarterback and an afterthought, right? So,
yeah,
JJ McCarthy played a huge part in that comeback win for the Vikings last week against the Bears. The Falcons had a pretty hard-fought game against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers came back and beat them right at the end. So the Falcons are going to definitely be hungry to try to get one back. I do still have the Vikings winning this one. Vikings are at home. Vikings still look like they're going to be a pretty good team. Kind of, offense lives and dies with JJ McCarthy. See if he can do what Sam Darnold did, and I think he's only going to get better every week. But you're right, it's hard to root for a divisional opponent to try to win any games. It was a great feeling to see him come back and beat the Bears. I was all for that. I was loving that. Proud of him, Michigan man, let's go. But yeah, they can start losing and falling off the division now.
Exactly. All right. Next game, Tampa Bay Bucks at Houston Texans. There's 2 Monday Night Football games this week. This is the first one. I hear they're ending these 2 Monday Night Football games. I think next year they're not going to be doing it, which I'm happy about.
I hate it.
It's stupid. And so in this game, this should be a pretty good game. I'm actually really looking forward to this game. I keep going back and forth, and I don't know who. I'm going with the Texans. I like the Buccaneers offense, but they struggle with the Falcons, and I think the Texans defense is tougher. So I'm going to go with the Texans on this one, mostly because it's at home. I would not be surprised if the Bucks won, but if you can pick between the two, I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Texans.
I also went with the Texans. I do think it's going to be a close game. The Buccaneers, the last game they won against the Falcons on a Baker Mayfield touchdown pass to Egbuka with a minute left. Last week, the Texans could not get much going offensively at all, and they end up losing to the Rams. C.J. Stroud has a lot to prove in this season. Was his rookie year a fluke, or is he more like how last year was, the second year in the league? So the Texans definitely need to respond to the loss. The Texans are playing at home. I'm satisfied with these slate of primetime games. I think they're all going to be pretty good games, but I do think the Texans are going to win this one. As you were talking, though, it just occurred to me that I remember Stingley, their corner, got hurt, and I have not heard what happened with that. He got hurt in the game.
Okay.
So that could maybe play a little bit of a difference, but...
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's a great player. All right, Jacob. Chargers are 3.5-point favorites at Vegas. Raiders. Who do you got in this one?
I was surprised at how the Raiders looked last week. They was against the Patriots, who are obviously a young team and the new coach, and they've got some growing pains and all that stuff. But I was surprised at how good the Raiders looked. And Geno Smith threw for 362 yards in that game. Yeah. That is not going to happen this week against the Chargers. I don't see him having the kind of game that he had before. The Raiders are at home, but Justin Herbert really did look elite in week 1. He really looked like he was putting everything together. He was hitting his targets. Quentin Johnson for the Chargers finally learned how to catch the football. Just did great things for them. So I think the Chargers are going to win. The spread right now is only 3.5 points favored for the Chargers. I think the Chargers covered that spread.
I'm going with the Chargers as well. Getting Keenan Allen back for Justin Herbert is, I think, a really big deal. I think he gives them that nice safety blanket. You got Lab McConkey out there, who's a great receiver too. And like you said, Johnson got his hands back, so he caught the ball. And yeah, Herbert looked good. I mean, I've been a critic of his, he's getting way too much credit for not really too much production, but he looked really good. So it'll be a good game. I wish the Commanders Packers was. I'm excited. I guess I'm excited Thursday Night Football because a lot of times those games aren't something I'm really looking forward to. But that's actually I'm expecting a pretty good game. Kind of wish just for a game of football that it wasn't like Thursday Night Football because Thursday Night Football is just watered down or whatever. The Packers are going to get the advantage that it's at home on a short week after playing at home.
Right.
And I don't like giving the Packers any advantage.
For sure. Agreed.
So. All right. Yeah, I'm feeling good about the Lions Bears. I think we're going to be I'll be cheering loud at the game. What's your plans for watching the game, Jacob? Just going to be at home or?
We'll be at home watching it with the kids.
All right.
Posting highlights. Check out the highlights as they happen. Hopefully there'll be more than just that.
Oh my God. Hopefully I hope he gets another one. Like, it doesn't have to be that amazing type catch, but I want in the home crowd, I want to have him get one. And I'm kind of curious who they're going to announce. Like, if they're going to announce the offense or defense.
They got to announce Hutch, right?
That's where I think it goes. And so, but then I'm like, Ben Johnson's back. Do they announce the offense just, for that reason? Like, that's the only reason. But I hope it's defense. I hope it's Hutch. It would feel better had they won last week and Hutch had a good game just to welcome them back. But the crowd's going to be excited to see him. Hopefully he has a really good game too. All right. Hope you enjoyed this. We enjoyed bringing it to you. Our numbers have been awesome this season. We are, I looked at it like we basically did double what we did last year. So that's really cool. Like that, it's growing like this, and numbers don't mean all that much to us. It's just the fact that, okay, we're doing something right. So we appreciate everyone that's listening to us, everyone that's giving us feedback. You can always reach out to us on our email, talkinggritpodcast@yahoo.com. Give us a fan mail link is say send us a text message. If you do that, put your name in there if you want a shout out because the names don't come through, or do a Spotify comment, and then always leave a review. And then, like Jacob said, he throws highlights, and I've been throwing up a lot of shorts on YouTube. So if you want a little more content, you could go to YouTube and subscribe to us there. If you do the notification, you'll find out when we go live. We go live on Mondays. And then this week we did an all 22 review after the main podcast. We kind of cut the audio podcast off, but we stay online. We chat with people, and then we did an all 22. So if there's plays that you want to see broken down by us, or do you want to, however, feel free to join us. I had a lot of fun with that, Jacob on Monday, and we plan on carrying that forward. Anything before we take off here, Jacob?
No, just we appreciate all the support. People tuning in when we're live and commenting, and just, all feedback is appreciated.
Yes. The comments and the stuff while we're doing the stuff on Monday is a lot of fun. It adds to the show, and we really appreciate it. You guys have good comments, good questions, and I'm able to incorporate a lot of those into the show. Sometimes we can't, just for time and stuff like that, and just the continuity of the show. But we appreciate every comment, and you guys spend time, and it's really comforting to know that you guys enjoy listening to us that much, that you're sitting there watching us. And I know it's all right looking at Glaber Torres over there, but you got stuck watching my face too. So howdy doody is what I used to get called, for those old people, big ear. You can't see my ears because I got the headphones. Yeah. Yeah. Howdy doody. I don't know who else, certainly it was Tom Cruise when I was younger. Definitely a lot of people thought
nobody believes that.
No one thinks that. It's all right. Howdy doody is what my dad used to call me. He was a puppet, in, I don't know, probably the season 60s. He had freckles like I do and that big ears. And that's what I got. I got the hardwood ears. So, but all right, I'm rambling on. Let's go. Let's root on for a victory. Got to beat these Bears. Get 1-1. Turn the crowd opinion. Lions fans need to turn around. We need some positive energy. So we're gonna come through. So for Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.